This presentation will be concerning cell phones in the classroom and in schools. As we look at Carol Tilley in 2004 to now between the years of 2004 and 2007, the proportion of teenagers who own cell phones increased from 45% to 71%. And this article, this is just a very brief article. It was published in 2009, and it kind of gives an introduction to cell phones to educators who don't really understand all of the phrases. As you'll notice, this is kind of funny on 2009. It says, "What is texting?" So this kind of just emerged. For the purpose of this article, texting serves as an umbrella term encompassing several discrete concepts and activities: text messaging, short message services, and Twitter. Then it starts talking about text speak, which is how students abbreviate their terms and make different text for things such as FYI, ASAP, and statements such as that. The article then in 2009 says something kind of odd. It talks about distractions and how cell phones can be distractions. They said teens do it texting late at night when their parents are asleep. They do it in restaurants and while crossing busy streets. They do it in the classroom with their hands behind their back. They do it as much as their thumbs hurt. As Hafner goes into detail, physicians and psychologists have implicated texting in sleep disturbances, increased anxiety, and repetitive stress injuries among young people. Motivated by instances of teens and adults texting while operating vehicles, states are increasingly passing ordinances prohibiting distracted driving. So this really starts with the 2009, the era of texting while driving. We've now seen this kind of really peaked now in 2011 with the rise of just people concerned about everyone texting and driving. I don't know if there's going to be a solution for that. They're actually saying that texting is worse than drinking and driving. I don't know the research on that, but you can see in 2009 with this article that they're already discussing there's some issues with that. Because of their pervasiveness, cell phones have the potential to be used as tools for learning, and learning made more flexible by the provision of the invisible infrastructure. So texting actually can help schools. However, texting within the framework of learning would not be a classroom distraction, but many schools are saying that they are distractions. A very interesting article. It kind of gives you, it kind of introduces everything and allows us to see how texting was viewed in 2009 and how many people are kind of encouraged by it and how it was kind of going in some weird directions. This next article talks about text message, and you see it looks like text speak in school literacy. Does texting and knowledge of text abbreviations adversely affect a child's literacy attainment? So does text speak, as we mentioned in the previous article, affect the student's literacy abilities? The paper reported on 2 studies which investigated the relationship between children's texting behavior, their knowledge of text abbreviations, and their school attainment in written language skills. When using text language or textisms, children revert to a phonetic language, which had been suggested may have a negative effect on literacy, but equally may not affect spelling. So phonics usually helps spelling, actually. Students who learn by phonics actually are better spellers. However, there's been very little research in that area. So let's go down to the results. In the first study, the researchers were interested in exploring whether high and low text users differ in their academic outcomes. So they were going to examine students who text a lot and students who do not text a lot and see if their outcomes in literacy are different. 65 11th and 12-year-old children were recruited to the study from a school in England. The mean age was 11 and 8 months old. 51 had regular, and then it starts like this. So, results. Let's get into the discussion. The results of the study present a mixed picture of the relationship between texting experience and academic ability. First, the higher text users scored significantly lower on the verbal and nonverbal reasoning measures than did no text users, and marginally lower than low text users. This could provide evidence for the critics of text messaging were it not for some qualifications. One qualifying factor here could be that the median estimated frequency of text per day was quite low. So what it boils down to is the information. The studies do not make a very strong conclusion. More importantly, when we look at the children's textism using the translation exercise, regardless of how often they actually sent text messages, there was a clear evidence of a positive association between the use of textisms and performances on the verbal reasoning measure. In some ways, this result is not unexpected given the creative nature of children's textisms. So therefore, if a student uses different kind of textisms and different word usages, it actually helps their verbal skills. However, the study says that the amount of text messages per day there is no evidence of that. And then they did some more studies with this as well. There are a number of overriding conclusions that can be drawn from these two initial investigations into the relationships between knowledge and the use of text. The constraints of these two studies have not permitted extensive individual testing. A second factor, experience with texting and mobile phone use, had mixed association with school literacy measures. So really the evidence is there needs to be further research on this. What are cell phone text messages doing to our students? We're seeing that there is an increase in literacy scores. However, there's so many other factors to this. The amount of text messages, are they texting too much? Are they texting while they drive? So this is very open to debate and a very new era of research. This is a very good study. I really like this. Costly cell phones, the impact of cell phone rings on academic performance. What happened with this is college students who were participating in the study took notes on video content and later completed a multiple choice test on the material. Researchers assigned 71 participants to enter the ringing condition. The video that they were watching was disturbed by a cell phone. It's quite amazing. The hypothesis that the cell phone rings would impair performance, that the cell phone rings would hurt the students doing well, compared to the students who just watched the video and did not have a cell phone ring while they were taking the class. So, very interesting research study. So, just to give you a basic idea of it. The first article we looked at was just the introduction, 2009, of cell phones. The second article we looked at was just talking about students and texting and how it's kind of, the research is out, up in the air. And the third one's going to look at, the one we're looking at now, is the price of a cell phone ring. If a cell phone is in class and it rings, does it hurt the academic achievement of students? They recruited 71 students in college. They were undergrad students. The participants believe they were participating in a study examining the psychology of note-taking. The samples, and so they thought they were taking it's kind of we're going to look at note-taking, they said. No big deal. So the students were kind of, they were ready for that. Researchers randomly assigned 32, so they had a random participation of this into the ringing condition. Cell phone rings disrupted the video at two predetermined times. A Confederate caller phoned a Confederate recipient seated in the center of the classroom. The phone rang for 5 seconds while the recipient searched through the backpack. So you have one group who doesn't receive a ring, they're watching the video, no big deal. And in the second group, it happened twice. Cell phone rings, and the person tries to find it. Following the video, researchers collected notes, and participants completed a multiple choice test that assessed their ability to recognize factual video content. Two of the test questions correspond with information presented at the time of the two cell phone calls in the ringing condition. Upon completion of the test, participants completed an item that served as a manipulation check. No big deal. What did they find? Findings indicate that cell phone rings during a video presentation impaired academic performance. Specifically, participants in the ringing condition performed worse on disrupted test items and were less likely to have recorded pertinent test information for disrupted test items than participants in the control condition. For test item number 1, the control group got 95% right. Item 2, 79% right. The ringing group, 68% and 50%. When in their notes, the control group took notes at 79% and 82%, but the ringing group, 53% and 43%. So that means when the incident happened, more than half of the class did not record the stuff in their notes because they were distracted by the cell phone. So what does this mean? This means every time the cell phone goes off in class, it is hurting your academic performance in that class. That's amazing. So if you're sitting in class and a teacher is teaching and one of your buddies' cell phone goes off, you should thank them for hurting your grade. Quite amazing. This is a cell phones in America study. And it talks about cell phones in America, and they look at how many cell phones are in schools. Does your school district have a written policy regarding cell phones? 84% said yes. Does your school permit cell phones used by teachers? 78% said yes. By students? No. Does your school allow students to leave cell phones on silent mode? Halfway. Do teachers have access to a hardwired phone in their classrooms? Halfway. Do you believe that teachers who utilize cell phones use them for school related? And everybody said no. No, they were using them for everything other reason. Does your school district supply cell phones for administrators? Halfway. Do bus drivers have phones by the school? And then halfway. Okay, interesting. High school principals. I asked them questions about this. Direct instructional time is lost due to cell phone use by teachers. They disagree. Teachers having cell phones improve school safety. They agree. Even though the students were saying that the cell phones used by teachers were used for non-business reasons. Teachers have cell phones facilitates prompt teacher-parent communication. They say no. Major instances of violence influenced by school district policy on cell phones. Not really. Parents are supportive of the school district overall cell phone for the most part. Cell phones used by teachers adversely affects. Now they disagree with that. Text messaging features are a problem during testing. They agree on that. So you see the debate on cell phones. It depends on who is making the debate. This was written in 2008. Invasion of the cell phones in the classroom. What rules are reasonable? What kind of policy is considered reasonable and enforceable? First, look in the course syllabus, where instructors lay down ground rules about classroom decorum. This usually includes a statement on cell phones and beepers. This is all. Although the subject is guaranteed to cause some trouble on it, the range of opinions includes teachers who advocate cell phones should be banned and teachers who say they shouldn't be banned. For example, the Fordham University Law Library, cell phones are prohibited everywhere, including the stairwells. Violators are asked to leave. The University of Virginia Library takes a kinder and gentler approach, asking that students conduct cell phone conversations away from study and research groups. Banning the phones and trying to enforce such a guideline strikes some as unduly restrictive and unnecessary. It is usually, with cell phone use among college students reaching nearly 85%, and without any college-wide policies on technology protocols, it does seem that students are testing the limits of appropriate behavior and faculty tolerance. One student at Montana State University told of a guy who ordered a pizza via cell phone during class, trying to time delivery for the end of class. But the delivery man showed up early and was standing outside the classroom door. A community college professor cited a student who could not find her cell phone and disrupted the class by accusing other students of stealing it when she had simply left it out in the computer where she had been working. It isn't just the classroom being invaded. There is no place on campus that is off limits to the intrusive cell phone conversation. In the "Can you top this" category is the female faculty member who recalled being in the ladies' room when a student in the adjoining bathroom stall received a call on her cell phone. When it came time to flush the toilet, the young woman announced that she would have to call back. She then hung up, flushed the toilet, and called right back. So cell phones in 2008 become a problem already, and we're seeing now it's even more faster, better, more irritating. The incidents like this like to decrease, and they have increased. By 2008, we see this as foreshadowing. It has increased. Cell phones are everywhere. Cell phones and laptops have become more pervasive. The opportunity to engage in diversions such as quick games of solitaire or Farmville, or checking scores or text messages during baseball season is tempting more and more students. The Pew Internet and American Life Project, which if you looked in the first article that we talked about during this presentation, also cited that, released a recent study of 1,000 students on 2- and 4-year college campuses that showed 1/3 of college students play video games on their cell phones and laptops during class. That 1/3 of college students play video games. So that's one reason why I've actually banned laptops in my class, because I found that students were on the internet and it was getting out of hand. Anyone who believes playing a game in class will not harm learning is living in a fantasy land, said Sherman. Students who say that are not likely to be doing very well in the first place, so maybe they are correct. Human beings are not able to concentrate on two things at once, especially when one of them, either the game or the class content, is quite differently. And that is a prime statement that coincides with the research article we saw before, which stated that when you're distracted, it causes an issue. Very interesting. Cell phones mediate or stand between people, explained Sherman. The words are sent, but the nonverbal information is not. So a very interesting article about cell phone use. So that, of course, opens up many debates and many questions we could ask. One would be about cell phones in classrooms and where we can go with those. What kind of rules and policies do we need to have? And more importantly, how can we use cell phones to aid in instruction? How can we use cell phones to help students and encourage students to do better? What kind of games can we create with cell phones and text messaging? Cell phones now are all over our society. 98% of our students have cell phones, and you saw that 95% of people have the internet capability at the house. So cell phones are really getting huge. What can we do as educators to create advanced methods of cell phone use? That may be an assignment, and we'll see that. Just a brief discussion on cell phones, and these articles are on your PDF file. Thank you for listening.